President Donald Trump's legal team could soon be filing a motion claiming that his Fourth Amendment rights were violated during the FBI search of his Florida estate at Mar-a-Lago. Trump's attorneys say they're going to argue that they legally deserve more details about exactly what was seized at the mansion. Either way, Trump supporters in Congress say the American people, in their opinion, deserve more answers.
The more the better, and the better the public relations of the FBI would be, because I think there's plenty of evidence of political bias.
Senator Charles Grassley, now the Attorney General Merrick Garland has pushed back on any claims that the FBI acted improperly in this investigation. So what is the fallout from the FBI raid this morning? Fox 5's On the Hill wants to welcome in our political panel this morning. Joey Garrison is the White House correspondent for USA Today, and Sadie Gurman is the Justice Department correspondent for the Wall Street Journal. Good to see you both this morning. Sadie, I want to start with you. You heard what Chuck Grassley about to say. Rewind us a couple of days ago for this court hearing, though. The media organizations went to a judge and said, we want this information released. The Justice Department is saying, well, we're not so sure about this. We don't want to compromise. What is the heart of the dispute here?
Well, at the heart of the dispute is that there are some very sensitive details contained in this affidavit. It would lay out what evidence the FBI has collected far beyond what we already know, and that includes sources and methods and potentially witnesses. One of the Justice Department officials who testified during the hearing said it would be essentially a roadmap for where they're headed. And so the Justice Department doesn't want this information out there in the hands of people who could either threaten witnesses or, use this in some way to obstruct the investigation. So what the judge tried to do is sort of strike a balance between what the media outlets had wanted and what the Justice Department had feared, and said, you have a week to essentially get me some suggested redactions, and I don't see a reason not to put at least some of this information out. So we could potentially be learning a little bit more about what happened here and what the underlying evidence was.
So if they, for lack of a better term, split the baby here and, look at what they had in this and then release to us what they already have now in their possession, could that leave some portions that are redacted that they don't want out yet that are still questionable?
Well, the Justice Department will have a chance to appeal any sort of ruling, so it could be some time before we see anything. And my sense is that the most secret details will likely remain redacted. However, this could offer sort of an unprecedented glimpse into, an extraordinary investigation. And so we are all waiting to see what the next step is.
Joey, if you look at what's been going on the Hill lately, the tone from some of the Republicans, at least in the aftermath of this raid, seems to have decreased as far as the volume. Now, is there a feeling that, the January 6th hearings have now had an effect on the Republicans that maybe take a wait-and-see approach to about how all this shakes out before they just launch into the outright support of former President Donald Trump?
Well, I still think there was overall a very much negative reaction to the FBI's search of Trump's Mar-a-Lago home, and from the far right of the Republican Party, from Marjorie Taylor Greene, et cetera, you've heard the mantra defund the FBI, things like that.
That is often expected from that quadrant of the Republican Party, though, isn't it?
Well, true, but you also had House Minority Leader McCarthy, others questioning whether this could have been a politicized FBI search. So I think there is still an element of that, and I think we're going to wait till, or a lot of folks are going to be waiting till the next court hearing next week, or this coming week, see whether parts of the affidavit are disclosed, see what comes of that. And I think if it remains sealed, I think you're going to hear a big outcry from Trump and his supporters, and it's going to really fuel a lot of criticism from the right over this even more so.
But within the Republican circles, when they look at what happened to Liz Cheney this past week, who lost her primary, is there a sense, though, that you don't want to wind up on the wrong side of the former president because he might come after you?
Yeah, certainly among most Republicans. Liz Cheney obviously was an exception. She saw herself as something of a martyr going down. She knew she was going to go down in flames. I think she lost even more decisively than I probably expected. I thought she might get a couple percentage points higher there, but she was soundly defeated. And I think that was really a testament to just how strong of a hold Trump still does have on the Republican Party.
So, Sadie, with this raid, it also should be pointed out this is not the only legal situation the former president is facing right now. In regards to the January 6th hearing, there could be some action by the Justice Department, and the Attorney General had said that, we may hear more from them based upon what it is that the January 6th Commission unfolds. What could be out there as far as action from the Justice Department that would grow out of what the January 6th committee has worked on?
That's right, and as far as we understand, the search of the Mar-a-Lago documents is separate and apart from the January 6th investigation, so which we know is escalating in terms of the prosecutors looking at the false elector scheme, and they are also examining the role of Trump's allies in that, and maybe even Trump himself. And we know that prosecutors have subpoenaed for similar information to what the committee has been using as the basis of its hearings. Mm-hmm. And we know that the Justice Department's investigation has been following closely on the January 6th committee hearings investigation as well, and that they have sought and have obtained a little bit of some of the witness transcripts from some of the thousands of folks who the panel has talked to. So they are intertwined, to say the least.
One of the themes here, Jesse, is that the Republicans have had a bumpy August, to be kind about it. Mm-hmm. The Democrats, meanwhile, they're starting to see gas prices go down. Biden finally gets this inflation reduction bill passed with the big help of Joe Manchin. Is this enough to save them in November from what a lot of people a couple of weeks ago were looking at as a possible blowout in the midterms?
Yeah, it really has been a series of wins for Democrats. If you also, a couple other things, the CHIPS bill the Democrats passed, as well as the gun regulations even before that. And it's really been a turnaround that seemed unexpected. You mentioned the Inflation Reduction Act. Talk seemed pretty much dead just a month ago. It's hard to, and so Democrats with Manchin leading the way on some of the things regarding climate, et cetera, really did kind of flip the storyline with Joe Biden. But I still think it's way too early to say whether Democrats have drastically improved their fortunes in November. Now, if you look at some of the Senate races, Democrats are winning some of these, but Biden's approval rating is still very low in those, and ultimately a midterm election often is a referendum on the president.
Time is running short. Sadie Gurman from the Wall Street Journal, Joey Garrison from USA Today. We appreciate both of you from joining us this Sunday morning.